all of the surveillance footage. We're going to give you all of that so you can look at that. We presented a couple of clips of those. They've presented some photographs of times. With everything that's been presented, he still has enough time. The 126 to 146 that we discussed, that full 20 minutes, that he was in the spray barn during that time. 341 to 429, they show a picture of potentially some farm implement out in a field and says he's the only one that could have been out there doing that. There was nothing to suggest that he was the only one that could have been out there doing that. We know Jaron was on the farm. We also know, based on their own witness testimony, Todd Nerick, that he was at the office, left the office when a little before the kids did. He goes out, does whatever he's doing, and he goes and meets Todd at the defendant at the spray barn. He says, I didn't go in the spray barn, but that's where Dale was. He didn't say he was out in the field planting or plowing or doing any of that. He was out at the spray barn. So again, we have that amount of time in the spray barn. 5:07 to 6:06. Again, he's clearly in there for that hour of time. There's additional time that he's in there that is, 5-10 minutes here and there. Granted, that's not a lot of time together, but you don't have to cut off the end cap all at one time. You can cut off 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. But he has more than ample time to get this done. The defense talks about how the defendant knew that Ivan and his brother were in the old shop working on the vehicle that day. He sure did. He didn't take the welder out of the old shop. He went to the new shop when he needed a welder. He went in there and he grabbed the angle grinder and the discs, and he didn't take the tank into the old shop to weld it there because, number one, there's surveillance cameras in there. Number two, Ivan's in there. He also didn't take it into the new shop to weld it. Again, that's the other place that we've heard testimony the welding is done, the old shop or the new shop. He didn't take it into the new shop because, again, there are surveillance cameras in there. Where does he take it? He takes the tank and the welder to the one place on the farm that nobody welds, and there's no surveillance cameras. There's been an argument that the defendant takes no action to hide what he's doing on the farm that day. He is welding in the spray barn where you don't weld. Well, he could have been fixing this or he could have been doing that. Then why not weld where the welders are? He was absolutely hiding what he was welding when he took that to the spray barn. There was indication that he was criticized for looking over Zach Bach's shoulders when Zach was looking at the cameras. Again, the defendant is in and out of the office, seeing what's going on the surveillance. Would he want to know what's caught on camera? Absolutely. Is he looking for his wife? No. Was he looking for his wife when he tried to access the cameras at 8:48 and 8:49 that morning? No. What is caught on camera? Between 2:18 and 2:46, the sprayer moves from the front of the office and gets parked in between the surveillance camera from the office and the spray barn. So if you'll remember, he leaves the property, he's back by 2:18, he parks in front of the office, he goes in, talks to the kids, looks over their shoulder some more, and goes and moves the sprayer and parks it in front of that camera. The defense indicated that there was no single trace that Dee Warner was killed in the property. Think about what the medical examiner said. Those injuries don't necessarily mean she was bleeding out. She suffered multiple blunt force injuries. And the wording of it sounds awful, but he did indicate that did not mean that she was bleeding out. In the days after Dee Warner was last seen alive, Kevin Greca walked through the property on the 26th and observed things, made no indication of what types of searching he did or how hard he searched. But I will acknowledge that there's no big piles of blood. Again, medical examiner says, no, not necessarily. Doesn't mean you would see blood. The medical examiner cannot determine the exact date of death or the time of death. That's correct. This is not TV, right? What did he say? The way that they work in the medical examiner's office is they work with law enforcement to determine the facts surrounding the case. When was the last time anybody saw this person alive? The last time anybody saw this person alive was Dale Warner at 6 a.m. when she was snoring away on the couch. Or Amy Alexander, who saw her at 7:40 the night before when she picked up Lena for the night. No duct tape, no tarp is on surveillance. Doesn't mean he didn't get those items. You guys went through the house. Could they have been in the garage? Could they have been in the attic? Could they have been anywhere else where surveillance may not have picked them up? Absolutely. He was in the spray barn while her kids were in the office. Again, with a grinder, where that office is located. Those kids stayed in the office the entire time looking at the cameras to see if they could find their mom. With the location of that office, you're not going to hear that grinder. The paint. Justin Schmidt testified that the welding fairly quickly after you weld that, you could paint it. But he indicated the only spot that he saw that had paint on it in that photograph was that strip right around the weld, which is consistent with the paint expert who said you have layers of paint and then you have one additional layer of paint that's just under that weld, and that's the only spot on that tank that had that additional layer of paint. Where's the paintbrush? Where's anything that was used in the spray barn? The trash was taken out to the trash pile to be burned. Did you see that on the surveillance footage? You've got the tank on the far corner of the screen, and in the burn pit you have a pile of trash from the spray barn. He continuously consented to searching all of his land again. Sure, come search. Not here, not now. You can search anywhere you want, but you can't search here. You have a right to say you don't want somebody to search. But when they come back later with a search warrant to search your property, and you come back onto the property and remove an item that is similar to the tank that her body is found in, again, a very unique tank, and you have come back to the property while the police are there searching. The dogs are 20 minutes out, and you're 18 minutes. You're back, and you're moving that tank, and then you're gone again. Talked about the canine tracks. Again, what would that cadaver dog smell? Nothing. She's in the tank by the 25th at 6:39 p.m. So all the searches, all the canine tracks that didn't locate her, they were never going to locate her. The question was, where are the items that went missing from the home? The go bag, the purse, the phone, the wallet. Between Munger and Brooklyn, there's an awful lot of property. I don't have those phones, those go bags. I don't have anything. We were never able to recover any of those items. Again, your article search dog, the canine officer, said, what do you say about finding those items? If they're outside in the elements, maybe 24 hours. When was the first search that they did of those properties? Not within 24 hours. Defense says, despite what Dreyer said on the stand, despite what he said, Dreyer said his statements were fairly consistent, which again was taken out of context. Yes, some statements were fairly consistent, but if you continue to read the report, Detective Dreyer went into the inconsistent statements. Defense claims that her client offered assistance in the background. He's got a 9-year-old that he's trying to take care of. The 9-year-old that he consistently throughout interviews said that he had never home, never had anything to do with her. I've got to work, I've got to farm, my brother's got her, my brother's girlfriend's got her. What about Greg Hardy and some of the things he did? You mean like offering a reward for the return of his sister? Putting together all the search parties that walked out and looked for her? This defendant didn't go out looking for her. The defense stated, the defendant didn't really think suicide was a real possibility. That's one of the first things he brought up on 425 when Austin Hall gets there. She was talking about killing herself and taking off and leaving. And then the next day with Greca, what does he say? Yeah, my wife's depressed. 427, she's suicidal. She tried to kill herself once. 3 times throughout the course of our marriage. He is the one that brought that up first. He had to be prompted to talk about Mexico and Jamaica. Detective Dreyer explained why he asked that question, because throughout the course of this entire investigation, while his wife has been gone, he said numerous times, I'm 100% she's in Mexico or Jamaica. And it's because she thought it was beautiful there. The cartel. She's living with the cartel. Again, does it make sense that Dee Warner's getting on a $10 boat ride? During his interviews, the defendant acted like he didn't know why Dee stopped going to counseling. I'm doing everything I can to fix this marriage, she stopped going, I don't know why, I don't know what happened. Very clearly, in one of the text messages that you guys have, she says, I'm not going to Craig anymore. I'm the one doing all the work. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. There was testimony by people that Dale would rub Dee's shoulders, and when they were fighting, she was clearly uncomfortable with that. The Vinx device, that's going to be the tracker that Brian Bush testified about, that Stephanie Vocal testified about, and the defendant himself gave numerous statements about. Danielle Vanden Heuvel, the expert, the phone data expert, testified that that app was actually purchased by Dale Warner's device, but not downloaded. So he did purchase and not download. Brian Bush, he, when asked to describe his relationship with Dee, what'd he say? Depends on what the day was, you know? Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad. His relationship with Dale was always like a father figure to him. There was a suggestion that the defendant didn't check OnStar when she was sneaking out because she didn't drive the Cadillac. Numerous statements he's given. She has never left here without a vehicle. And he wasn't allowing her to drive the Hummer because it took up too much gas, and the only place that she could drive it was out to the field to bring him food. Again, never brought that up to the police as a concern. My wife's been sneaking out. I don't know where she's been going. Stacy Brody testified twice before coming here, and she never once described the bruise as looking like a handprint. However, when she was shown her police report, that her statement to the police that she made prior to ever testifying in any court, she clearly described that bruising as a handprint. The 23rd, when Todd says he's in the office and he gets into it with Dee and sees her in sweatpants, Stephanie was there too. She testified about that. What else did she say? I have never seen Dee Warner outside the house in pajamas or anything less than always dressed up. She always had to have the best on. The defendant was checking her phone location that morning. The argument is, if he knew that she was dead, why would he keep checking her phone location? He wouldn't keep doing this. No, you would, right? For the same reason that you would duct tape her mouth and nose, you don't want her to ever breathe again. I need to know that that phone is not going to ever ping. I need to know that nobody's going to find that device. They talked about people roaming all over the property, yet we've heard Ivan Boyd and his brother were in the old shop. The entire family was in the office, and there were 2 employees that came into the old shop to clock in and clock out. They brought up Maddie's testimony that Dee would sometimes walk to the office. She had no socks and shoes on. Again, you've been on the property. You've heard the description of Dee Warner. She has never left her house in her pajamas and wouldn't be walking down to the shop without her socks or shoes on. April 27th, it was brought up, well, why wouldn't he just move the tank himself when law enforcement was there if they were going to come back? He didn't have to. He asked Jason Gravel to do it. Go back there and move that tank for me and put it in the spray barn. Again, what does Jason Gravel do? He moves the wrong tank. He did testify that it wasn't uncommon for him to move tanks, but what else did he say? That was the only time that the defendant has ever called me and asked me to put a tank inside the spray barn. The only time. The 27th, Parker Hardy goes in the barn, in the spray barn at 7 p.m. This is before tank 34 is brought in. Again, this is when the old rusty tank 8 is in there. Why would he notice the weld on tank 8? Tank 8 did not contain D. Warner's body. Tank 34 did. And at that time, tank 34 was still over at the burn pit. Parker was the only person that saw the JCB tracks leading up to the house. Except for Dale confirms that he pulled the JCB directly up to the house and came back inside the house through numerous interviews. Again, Dr. Cho, the date of death, he testified he was not concerned at all that the date of death would be 4/25/2021. I said, her body was kind of in pretty well preserved, doctor. Are you concerned about that? What do you say? No, there's no oxygen getting in that tank. The defense brought up that Dr. Cho said they could have been sweatpants. Again, Raquel looked at those photographs. She identified those as her mother's pajamas. Justin testified that cutting that end of that tank off would have been faster with a plasma cutter. Sure, of course. Why would you use that? Why wouldn't you use the plasma cutter? Well, what else did he say? If you want to weld it back together, it makes sense to use an abrasive cutting wheel. You don't use a plasma cutter if you plan to put that item back together. They can't match the chain or hook. D. Warner was last seen on 4/24/2021, again by Amy Alexander, or 4/25/2021 by the defendant. And her body was not discovered until August 2024. Those items are gone. They went back and executed a search warrant after they found her body. The defendant says chemicals can cause burns. Sure. We had Ryan Rankin here talking about chemical burns. That burn was consistent with a welding burn, not a chemical burn. The fingerprints. The defense says the stickers were peeled off the tank when the paint analyst went to get paint scrapings. Who cares? The person who, the fingerprint analyst, was the first person to do anything with that tank. She came to Northville, dusted the tank, pulled the stickers off, so the stickers are going to be off, before the paint analyst came and did her portion. So of course those stickers are going to be off. Look at the exhibit with the Google searches on it. It'll tell you the search term on there. The search term is chemical cremation. The items that were clicked were, why is it illegal? Chemical cremation, why is it illegal? There's no suggestion that he typed in why is it illegal. Go to that particular document and look what's in there. Chemical cremation. Where does he go? You know, when you type in something in Google and then you go down and pick the one you want and you click on that and read it, that's what that document is. Fingernail clippings were not sent to the lab for DNA. How many times did you hear that nothing inside that tank was suitable for DNA testing because of the chemicals? Detective Dreyer worked closely with the lab to try to get some of that stuff processed, and they could not be processed because the items were not suitable for testing. We didn't bring an expert in to tell you that the writing on the tag is the defendant's. I mean, look at the writing yourself. You've got plenty of documents. You're going to be able to come to your own conclusion on that. There was a suggestion that Terry and Todd weren't spoken to, that none of these people were looked at or talked to. That's simply not true. And finally, the defense indicates that if this crime was premeditated, he would have had all those items already. They would have been ready for him to go, ready for him to cut that off, ready for him to do the welding back. Again, premeditation, deliberation, they do not take that long. I don't have to think about it, go plan it, go pull my welder in, and then go kill her and then weld her up, right? We talked about the yellow light. When you see a yellow light, what do you think? You've heard about her injuries. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many chances did he get to think about it? Then she was strangled to death. 5. How many chances did he get to think about what he was doing? And then not only that, let's assume 3 or 4 knocks her out, 5, she's unconscious. What do you do? Call for help, right? I screwed up. I hurt my wife. Come help. This defendant duct taped her mouth and her nose so that she could not breathe again. Those were all conscious decisions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every one of them. You will have the surveillance footage. You will have every piece of evidence that's been presented. Anything you want to look into further, please look at it. Ask for it. We want you to look at it. We want you to return a verdict of guilty, first-degree murder, and tampering with evidence.